What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the German Bear Podcast. And today we want to talk about the 2022 Chicago Bears schedule after it finally got released last night officially by the NFL. And I want to give you guys my prediction on how the season will turn out for the Bears. And I think it's a pretty easy schedule, first of all, and a lot of games that are winnable for the Bears. And I mean, the record at the end might shock you, but I guess it's still kind of realistic or a possibility that could happen. And let's get into it right away and start off with week one. The Bears faced the San Francisco 49ers at home. Trey Lance against Justin Fields. I guess Trey Lance will be the starter for the 49ers, and it's just that outside zone scheme against outside zone scheme. Kyle Shanahan is a master of that system, and we will face him with Luke Getsy now as our offensive coordinator who tries to implement the same offense for Chicago. And it will be interesting. It will be a pretty good game, I guess, and a great season opener for us fans as well. It's Justin Fields against the quarterback that has been taken before him in favor of him. And I guess it's somewhat of a revenge game to show the 49ers that they made the wrong decision. And I have the Bears winning that game. So the Bears start off 1-0 against a really good defense led by Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. But I don't know. It just seems like that the Bears, I have a feeling about them really starting the season off with a fire in their hearts because they are doubted that much this offseason, and Matt Eberflus and all the coaches, all the players want to prove the doubters wrong. So starting off 1-0 this season, the Bears will face the Green Bay Packers in week 2. Sunday night football, primetime once again against the Packers, and it's also at Lambeau. So for me, the result of the game is pretty clear. The Chicago Bears will lose this one. So the record will get tied to 1-1. Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers and is just freaking good. So I guess we can't match the offensive and also defensive power of them. They also drafted pretty strong. I was kind of laughing at them after day one of the draft, but at day two, they grabbed Christian Watson, one of my favorite players in this draft, deep threat, big body receiver who's just fast and got good hands. And I guess with Aaron Rodgers, he will get even better as expected. Then you have Quay Walker, talented linebacker out of Georgia, Devontae Wyatt. They really were beefing up their defensive line. Also still got Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith as defensive linemen as well, or edge rushers. So their defense is great and their offense is pretty good as well, even with the loss of Devontae Adams. So I was losing that game, but that's pretty much okay. Week 3 then continuing on with the Houston Texans at home, and that's a clear win for me. The Texans drafted really strong this year. Got Derek Stingley Jr., Kenyon Green, the guard from Texas A&M, also late round steal, Thomas Booker, the 3-tech, and they got a lot of good players in this year's draft class. But at the end of the day, it's still the Texans. It's a team that has improved over the last couple of years, or at least this year especially, but I still see us winning that game because Justin Fields takes a leap in year 2 and gets us the win at home. Then continuing with week 4, we face the New York Giants in New York, an away game, but the New York Giants still have Daniel Jones, and at the end of the day, it's a quarterback battle each and every game, and Daniel Jones is not on the same level as Justin Fields, so I have us winning that game as well, even though I think it will be harder than people think, because they drafted also pretty solid, and are kind of a underrated team. Just depends on how Daniel Jones will play this season, but like I said, let's take this W from them and continue on to be 3-1. Week 5 continues against the Minnesota Vikings away game, and I have us losing that game because, the Vikings still got a lot of offensive firepower, even though they have Kirk Cousins as their quarterback, great receiving core, also a pretty solid offensive line, and their defense has been improving after the draft as well with signing or drafting Louis Cine and Andrew Booth Jr., who fell all the way into the second round as well. So they really solidified their secondary in somewhat way, and I think we at least will lose one game against the Vikings. We'll have to wait and see until week 18 what my prediction for that game will be, but week 5 should be a loss for now because the Bears are not winning 3 games in a row in that season because the roster is just not there yet. So I have us losing week 5 against the Vikings and advancing to 3-2. Week number 6 will be the second primetime game of the 2022 NFL season for the Bears. Thursday night football against the now Washington Commanders at home in Soldier Field. And I have us winning that game because the quarterback situation for the Commanders is not the best. They got Carson Wentz, who is solid, and I like him, but at the end of the day, it's still Carson Wentz. It's still a team that is not there yet, just as the Bears. And like in so many games, I have Justin Fields over the other quarterback, and that's why I have us winning that game, advancing to 4-1. But this should be a pretty fun game because I also love to watch Terry McLaurin, Ron Rivera, their head coach, is a great guy. And yeah, this should be a fun game, but I have the Bears taking that win. And continuing with primetime games, in Week 7, the Bears have their next one and also the last one of the season, Monday Night Football against the New England Patriots at New England. And it's just like with week number 1, Justin against Lance, now it's Mac Jones against Justin Fields. Also a quarterback battle from the 2021 draft class. And I have Justin Fields losing that game against the Patriots just because it's at Foxborough, it's Monday Night Football, and they still got Bill Belichick as their head coach. They got a great defense. Their offense is solid as well. They added some wide receivers. Devontae Parker is one of their bigger additions. Tyquan Thornton, even though I think it was a reach, is still a super fast wide receiver, and you never know how the players turn out in New England. So I have us losing that game, but I mean, it will be a fight and probably a great game as well. I don't see us being embarrassed on national TV like in the Matt Nagy era. I think we have better times ahead of us, just not taking this win. In Week 8, we face another pretty good team, the Dallas Cowboys, and we're at Dallas, so I have us losing that game. It's a strong team, got still a great offense, even though Amari Cooper is now gone. They got Jalen Tolbert in return, who's a solid and talented wide receiver from this year's draft class, who I liked coming out as well. So they stacked up at receiver, even though they were losing some guys. They still got Dak Prescott. If he stays healthy, this should definitely be a win for the Cowboys. Week 9, we're facing the Miami Dolphins at home, who were stacking up as well this offseason, especially with adding Tyreek Hill to their wide receiver room, the explosive guy that played for Kansas City for years now. And I have us losing that game once again, so the Bears on a 3-game losing streak. Patriots Monday Night Football, Cowboys at Dallas, and then the Dolphins at home taking the win against us as well. But I see that being a very, very close game, especially because of the quarterback battle between Justin Fields and Tua Tagovailoa. And that's for sure Justin will have the better game. But at the end of the day, I think the defense of the Miami Dolphins is really solid, great cornerback room, good pass rushers. And I think our defense also can't really handle the overpowering offense, even though they got not that good of a quarterback. Week 10 will be the first meeting with the Detroit Lions at home at Soldier Field, and I have us winning that game, of course, against the Detroit Lions. I think the Detroit Lions had an excellent draft this year with Jameson Williams, Aiden Hutchinson, lots of great players that they added, but at the end of the day, it's still the Lions, and I see us still as a superior team, even though a lot of experts are calling the Bears out as the last place in the NFC North, but I see us winning the 2 games against the Lions this season, and I mean, just as usual, this should be an interesting game, but not really a loss for the Bears, so I have us winning that, so overcoming that losing streak in Week 10, and then going into Week 11 at Atlanta against the Falcons, winning that game as well, so going on a bit of a winning streak there. The Falcons are not a strong team, maybe even the worst team in the NFL right now, not really solidifying any position group at all, it seems like. So this should be an easy game, you think, for Justin Fields, and should be a win. Week 12 will be against the New York Jets. So once again, another 2021 quarterback battle. Zach Wilson, number 2 overall pick, against Justin Fields at New York. So it will be an interesting game, but I have the Bears winning once again. I think the Jets are a pretty dangerous team this season and should be a team that everybody should just look out for. But at the end of the day, Justin Fields will be the superior quarterback. They got a good defense. They got solid offensive players now as well. They got a great draft, getting Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson late in round 1, which was absolutely in steal. Sauce Gardner is a great cornerback, as well as Breece Hall is their new running back with Michael Carter in that backfield. So they got a lot of weapons. It's just for me that the coaching of the Bears will be pretty good this season, and they will outmatch the New York Jets this year and take a win for a 3-game winning streak. Week 13 then is the next meeting with the Green Bay Packers at home at Soldier Field this time, and I still have us losing that game. I think the roster is at least 1 year away of competing with the Packers, but I think next year the chances are pretty good that the Bears will win some games against the Packers. Just this year, the roster's not that ready yet. So losing that game, not that much to say about this one. Just like in week 2, it's against Aaron Rodgers, and you can't really control the game then. So this will be an L. And then week 14, we will finally have our bye week. And I have to say, it's a pretty late bye week, and it's rough for a young team like the Bears have this season, and also for a first-time head coach. But if the record plays out like this will be a great refresher for the team in general, especially after a tough loss versus Green Bay. Reloading your weapons, getting everybody happy again. Like I said, it's pretty late, so it's tough to handle for some head coaches to keep the team happy throughout the year. But I guess week 14 works out, like I said, if the record will be like that by week 14. Then week 15 will be against the Philadelphia Eagles at home, and I have us winning that game. Once again, the main part will be the quarterback battle between Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the better quarterback. The Philadelphia Eagles have a good roster, but I have us winning that game, especially at home with our own fans making a lot of noise. Week 16 will be another home game, but this time against a whole different team, the Buffalo Bills, one of the best teams in the NFL. I have us losing that game. Josh Allen, Justin Fields should be a great battle and a fun game to watch, but at the end of the day, it's just a way more complete team, and they will take that win. Week 17 against the Lions, again, this time at Detroit. Win for us. Like with the first game, I think the Bears are still the better team and will take that win. And then week 18 against the Minnesota Vikings will be a W as well, because I don't see us losing 2 games against the Vikings. It's just that rivalry and always a competitive game against the Vikings. It seems like it's not like with the Packers that we lose it just basically every year besides 2018, the second game in 2018. But with the Vikings, I think we always had good chances and also won a lot against them over the last couple of years. And I think this season in week 18, we will definitely take that win and get a final record of 10-7. So this is now my pre-training camp record prediction for the Bears in 2022. I think it's a great record and in general just a great schedule for the Bears to work with. Some tougher games, Packers, Bills, 49ers will be interesting. I think the Cowboys are interesting as well. But in general, it's a pretty easy schedule, especially compared to last season. You got that week 10 to 12 stretch against the Lions, Falcons, Jets, which should be pretty easy. You still got the Lions, you got the Commanders, Texans, Giants. Like, it's not that tough of a schedule. And with Justin Fields hopefully developing in year 2, the Bears should have pretty good chances to have a good record, even though the team is not ready to compete for a Super Bowl yet. But 10-7 would probably put them into the wild card conversation at least. And if the Bears make the playoffs in Matt Eberflus's first year, that would be absolutely perfect. I think this defense still has the talent to play at a pretty high level. And I mean, with the offense, it's just a mixed bag or a surprise package because we don't know how Luke Getsy will prepare the offense or what he will actually run besides the fact that it will be an outside run scheme. Also, lots of talented players. Wide receiver position isn't fully figured out yet, so we have to wait until after training camp, but lots of talented players. I will definitely do another record prediction post training camp, so stay tuned for that. But for now, I think the schedule is pretty nice and good for the Bears, and especially for Justin Fields' development. A lot of games where it can probably shine, so I'm excited for the season. I can't wait for it to start, and yeah, that wraps up the video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Like and subscribe if you liked the video. Check out Instagram if you want to as well. And as always, guys, bear down.